Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll go into a little bit more detail about what we can expect this afternoon when the US Treasury Secretary goes back to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi with what is expected to be a proposal very similar to the Problem Solvers Caucus $1.5 trillion proposal. Now, the big question is, can President Trump get enough Republican senators to be able to get behind a proposal should the two sides agree? And in fact, US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin was specifically asked about this in the interview. And it was interesting how he hedged his answer. He simply said that we'll first try and get a compromise with House Speaker Pelosi. So in other words, the current strategy of the administration appears to be, let's get Speaker Pelosi to agree on something and then let's work on getting support. Potentially they're already working on it. But the strategy is first, let's get agreement about the top line number. And honestly, there's an inherent problem with that strategy because Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats have already rejected the $1.5 trillion Problem Solvers Caucus proposal. Unless they change their position, it seems like that they would simply reject it again, in which case we are back to square one. But let's watch this very interesting response from the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin about, hey, can you actually get Republican senators on board because they were initially not open to a proposal higher than $1 trillion. And you'll see that in his response, the Treasury Secretary refers to the $1 trillion HEALS Act. And what's interesting is after the HEALS Act, the Republicans tried to pass a skinny bill that was, right around $500 billion. And now the goal is to try and get House Speaker Pelosi to agree to right around $1.5 trillion. So it's not clear what is going to make the Democrats come down and agree to that. And even if they agree to that, it's not clear whether the president can get enough GOP senators to support this and make this a done deal. But let's see the response. This is the clearest indication that we've got that the administration wants to get a response from House Speaker Pelosi before they try and work on getting enough Republican support. Let's watch. Let's roll the tape.
The airlines have issued a deadline of tomorrow before they will lay off 30,000 or even more employees that come up. Do you think that there will be any sort of a carve out or that this legislation could get passed before tomorrow's deadline just for that industry in particular?
I don't think there'll be anything on a standalone basis. I would hope that by tomorrow, we either have an understanding on an overall package. That doesn't mean, obviously, there wouldn't be a lot more work to do. But I am hopeful that we can come to an overall understanding. And if we do that, hopefully the airlines will postpone their actions. I will say I'm very proud of the people at the Treasury Department who have been working very hard to close all the airline loans. We got that done. And there's a lot of support we've already delivered for that industry.
And now you see a tweet on your screen from Heather Cagle, who's a reporter for Politico. And this is something that House Speaker Pelosi said. House Speaker Pelosi said they're still apart on two issues: aid for state and local governments, and number two, liability protection for businesses. The Democrats want more aid for state and local governments. Initially, they wanted $900 billion, but in the updated version of the HEROES Act, they came down to right around $436 billion. And the Republicans didn't want to do more than right around $150 billion. The second issue is liability protection for businesses, which was not a focus of the updated version of the HEROES Act, but it is a tremendous area of importance. And it is essentially non-negotiable for the Republicans. So these two areas, in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, should be sorted out quickly. I mean, we shouldn't be arguing over things that are relatively smaller relative to the big picture. Now, that doesn't mean they are less significant. I just want to be clear. I'm not minimizing the importance of anything. That's one thing I've learned in my life. You want to be able to try and consider all points of view. That's how you can remain fair and balanced. But in the interest of the broader picture, in the interest of getting a $1,200 stimulus check to our viewers and subscribers, in the interest of extending and unemployment benefits, the $600 a week booster was a lifeline, in the interest of extending the Paycheck Protection Program, which my viewers and subscribers is very important. 65% of economic activity in our country can be directly attributed to small businesses, the small bars, the small restaurants, the small, mom and pop shops on Main Street. They are the ones that have been hammered, that have been impacted, while companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Home Depot, Tesla continue to increase their market, Apple continue to increase their market cap substantially, which is very unfair because this is not a V-shaped recovery. This is a K-shaped recovery. So, this is just very unfortunate. Now, the silver lining in all of this is that if the House Speaker and U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin can agree, because there are a lot of things that they agree on. If they can agree on the $436 billion for state and local aid, if they can agree on liability protection for businesses, then we could see a compromise as early as this afternoon. But we still don't have an answer to the question whether enough Republican senators will support this. So I do want my viewers and subscribers to understand this. I don't want you to believe in the hype that, oh, if this won't get passed, there'll be executive orders. If executive orders were indeed possible, why have they not been done already? Please don't believe in the hype. Please don't get swayed. For me, it's not about the red or the blue. It's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm American. Okay. So for me, that's very, very, very important. And I believe that's important for you as well. We all want what's best for the country. Speaking of bipartisan support, there's consensus between the two sides on the importance of the Paycheck Protection Program, which is very important for small businesses. Small businesses need the Paycheck Protection Program. I did a video earlier today with Jim Cramer, where I focused on Jim Cramer's comments, where his businesses are shut down because he didn't get any more Paycheck Protection Program money. And he's not the only one. There are many other businesses that have been shut down because they need more funding. So there is bipartisan consensus on the Paycheck Protection Program, on funding for schools. There's bipartisan consensus on several things. And I do hope the two sides can come together and, come to a consensus on aid for the airlines, because airlines employ tens of thousands of people. In fact, here's another important thing. Airlines have a deadline by tomorrow, where if by tomorrow airlines don't receive some sort of funding, then tens of thousands of individuals could be laid off. And U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin did say, when he was specifically asked, hey, can there be a standalone bill for the airlines? He said there's no standalone bill.
The airlines have issued a deadline of tomorrow before they will lay off 30,000 or even more employees that come up. Do you think that there will be any sort of a carve out, or that this legislation could get passed before tomorrow's deadline just for that industry in particular?
I don't think there'll be anything on a standalone basis. I would hope that by tomorrow we either have an understanding on an overall package. That doesn't mean, obviously, there wouldn't be a lot more work to do. But I am hopeful that we can come to an overall understanding. And if we do that, hopefully the airlines will postpone their actions. I will say I'm very proud of the people at the Treasury Department who have been working very hard to close all the airline loans. We got that done. And there's a lot of support we've already delivered for that industry.
Have you had any conversations with the CEOs of those airlines asking them to make sure that they would hold off on laying off anyone if there looks like there is at least some understanding between the parties?
I've spoken to all the airline CEOs on a constant basis. I think they've done a good job reaching out to both Republicans and Democrats. And I'll be calling them this afternoon and giving them an update on my conversations with the Speaker. It's
very clear, because I've mentioned this before. If anybody from the administration talks of a standalone bill, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are going to be out the door. And I've mentioned that before, and that's why now the administration is like, all right, we get it. It's got to be one big standalone bill, which includes airlines. And in case you're wondering why I'm talking about airlines, airlines employ tens of thousands of people. The idea is to try and do one big bill to help everybody, which has been the focus of the Democrats. And we are going to see one big bill. The question is, can both sides agree to it? That's number one. And number two, can Republican senators get behind it? Because it's clear that the administration wants something to happen. The Democrats have been essentially holding out for more, and that's where things stand. Speaking of the areas of consensus, let's roll the tape and see exactly what U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin had to say about the areas of consensus and where things could head in this final showdown with stimulus negotiations this week. Let's roll the tape.
Is there in the middle ground? I mean, I think I can guess at some of these things. What's targeted, what seems to have bipartisan support, and I would throw out things like extending unemployment to some extent and raising that number, maybe extending some money for small businesses, potentially the airlines, making sure that this is targeted information. But can you give us any scope about the things that you've been discussing that you think are likely and that there is common ground?
Well, first, let me say all the issues that we worked with the Senate on the $1 trillion deal are in there. In many cases, we actually have an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats on what we want to do. But in certain cases, the issue is really about the size and scope of how much we want to do. So there are certain policies where we do have differences, but there's a lot of commonality. Things like the PPP has enormous bipartisan support. Money for schools has enormous bipartisan support. We have additional direct payments, economic impact payments, which has support on both sides. We have back to work credits. We have retention credits. So I think there's many areas. You mentioned the airlines. We do support more money for the airlines. That's something that's critical to keep our airline workers together.
So for my viewers and subscribers, the two issues that the two sides have been stuck on for months: aid for state and local governments and liability protection for businesses. If somehow the two issues get sorted out today, then we do have hope for the future. I'll let you know as soon as the news comes out. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below. Please also share this video with friends and family members. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That's your vote of confidence in us, because me and my team work very hard to put out this content for you in real time and assimilate all of the news clips and create it in an easily consumable mini digest for you on a daily basis. So please subscribe, please enable notifications. As you can see from our channel, we go above and beyond with all of the work that goes into the content, with all of the editing that goes into the videos. The fact that you can consume these videos so quickly, so smoothly, and it's easy for you to understand. It looks simple, but there is a lot of complexity behind the simplicity. I mean, you hold an Apple phone or an Apple device and it looks so simple, but there's tons and tons of engineering that goes into it. Similarly, with this channel, there's a ton of effort that goes into it, a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and your vote of confidence in us is you subscribing and you enabling notifications. And everybody, I have a new update for you. You'll see a tweet on your screen from Jake Sherman over at Politico. And Jake Sherman just reported that the US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is coming to DC, is coming to the Capitol to meet with House Speaker Pelosi at 12:45 p.m. East Coast time today in order to present the administration's counter proposal, which he said is going to be in line with the Problem Solvers Caucus proposal. So 12:45 p.m. East Coast time is when the two will be meeting. We can expect an announcement right around 2 p.m. East Coast time, and I'll break it to you then. Let's see what happens, but I wanted to give you the important new update about the timing of this meeting we've been talking about. Also, here's news that just came in. This is from Chip Roy, congressman from the great state of Texas. He writes, I quote, "Classic swamp. I'm hearing from K Street." K Street is essentially an acronym for lobbyists and advocacy groups that have a powerful influence in Washington. I'm hearing from K Street of a deal between Mnuchin and House Speaker Pelosi. Just like you learned how bills become a law, huh? This is not draining the swamp. This is the swamp. And hopefully the president can rein in Mnuchin. It sounds like something is brewing behind the scenes. More news to follow soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. That is your vote of confidence in what I'm doing, in all the hard work that my team and I put together. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video. You'll learn about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. You can get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. And you can get added to our SMS list. You can also get added to our email list, ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts. You can opt out of the SMS or the emails at any point in time. No worries about that. You can also bookmark our channel, youtube.com/ignitiontime. That's youtube.com/ignitiontime. Sometimes YouTube doesn't send out notifications. This way you can visit our homepage at any time and, bookmark our channel and then just check out our videos anytime you want. You can follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time, and you can get exclusive content on Instagram. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is also ignition_time, so that you can get exclusive content on Twitter. Remember, we release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.